Oh my God, I think about the Roman Empire all the time.
Okay, men, you have sold me on the Roman Empire after watching the Colosseum videos of just food, really, and the gladiator video. I am invested in this. I am here for it. So today we are going to be watching the impressive training and recruitment of Roman legions, and I think this is going to be really interesting. So I hope you guys are doing good today. I am, yeah, I am all for the Roman Empire and learning about it, and I have been thinking about it over the last few days, weeks. So, that has happened. I kind of get it now. I kind of get it. So, if you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch, and I'll have the original video linked in my description below. So, be sure to go give them a like and subscribe. They do a really good job. All right, let's learn about the training and recruitment of Roman legions. All right, before we get started, I have been trying to find some more bite-sized length videos to react to, but I am interested in learning more. So if there are any longer documentaries that are on YouTube, let me know. Put them in the comments below. Give me some channel names, suggestions, all that stuff. Stuff that I can kind of watch in my free time so I can really get immersed in this, and then also trying to find like some of these other like smaller, shorter videos to react to. But I am open to all suggestions though.
For centuries, the Roman military was feared for its reputation of glory, as it boasts one of the highest win-to-loss ratios of any army in history. This was at core due to their very complex and intricate military system that was developed from centuries of trial and error, with the sole goal of creating the ideal soldier, unmatched by the other European nations of antiquity. This system applied not only to training but also the very selection and recruitment of soldiers. Today I will go over the particular qualities the Romans looked out for and preferred when choosing their recruits.
I gotta say, every time I see some of these pictures and you see these armors, and I don't know who is who necessarily yet, I will get there. But they all look so cool. Everybody looks so cool. They all look very manly. I appreciate it. I like it.
For the particular qualities the Romans looked out for and preferred when choosing their recruits, as well as the many training methods they highly relied upon. This video will be specifically based on the system of the early Roman Empire, which was arguably the peak of Roman military dominance.
I feel like that's fair. We're gonna be peak era. I think that's good.
Many, such as Vegetius, go as far as to believe that one of the biggest reasons for the Roman Empire's deterioration was due to them straying away from this very strict level of recruitment and training. First of all, it is important to understand that the Romans strongly believed that some areas and even nations were better for recruiting than others. Even though every legionary recruit had to be a Roman citizen, they were aware of the effects that climate and culture had on people. Some nations had a more militaristic culture, while others were more concerned with trade. Some people grew up in cities, while others in the countryside. These were the first things that had to be considered when raising a legion.
I feel like I wouldn't. I mean, I feel like the military town would be pretty good. And I also feel like the country would be pretty good. Trading, I feel like might be kind of up in the air, but I don't know. Those would be like my top picks would be like if your town was military based or if you lived in like a farming community. I mean, because like, country boys are strong. I think there'd be some really strong men out here.
As a general rule, recruits from the countryside were preferred over those
Ha!
from the city because they
I'm not as dumb as I look.
As a general rule, recruits from the countryside were preferred over those from the city because they were more accustomed to the struggles of life
Yeah.
from an early age. They also surely knew how to use the many tools that would be used in the army, and their bodies were more used to hunger.
See? Yeah, see? Built tough.
These were the men that were preferred, and the Romans always tried to have most of their army recruited from the countryside. Men from the cities were also taken in, but they had to undergo a slightly different program.
I would think so. Like city life, I don't know. City, I feel like could be a kind of a mixed bag. Like if you got maybe like a poorer person from the city, they might be okay, but then they also might be too malnourished at the same time, kind of, because and since they don't live on a farm or anything like that, like they're not really doing any work to help their cause, I guess, or to help their bodies. But then I feel like you could probably be like maybe like middle class and pretty decent, and maybe like a hard worker, and you would probably do okay.
They were to be trained extra hard in order to be brought
Yeah.
into shape. They were also taught to bear the weather, use various tools, and had to be stationed as far as possible from their city so that they forget about its luxuries and comfort.
Ooh, that's some psychological stuff right there. That's pretty smart though. That's actually pretty smart.
As far as possible from their city so that they forget about its luxuries and comfort. After drawing up the recruits, a careful examination began, with particular emphasis on certain desirable feats. The more obvious ones included a good physical shape and good eyesight.
I think those would be important. Good physical shape and good eyesight. You don't need, somebody who needs glasses. Although, I guess if your eyesight's decent, that should be good enough.
Both indicators of a healthy body, good genetics, and a promising soldier. Wide
Yeah.
shoulders and a small waist were particularly favored. A height of 5.7 Roman feet was a requirement for all infantry, with anything over that being highly favorable.
You hear that, ladies? Anything over 5'5" or 5'7", that is peak soldier good standing. Okay, stop judging men by their height. Sorry, that was a side note, but I'm just saying.
A strict requirement for a height of 6 Roman feet was set to join the first cohort and
5'8". Okay, see, look at this. 5'8", good standing.
cavalry of each legion. But sometimes a lack of height could be compensated with a particularly strong physique. Some of the less obvious feats involved, in the words of Vegetius, the characteristic of lively eyes, which was an indicator that the man was of quick thinking and a quick mind.
What do lively eyes look like? Like what would that look? Not because I feel like that's different than crazy eyes, right? Or like shifty eyes. Maybe you just look really alert, maybe.
Good manners as well as a reputable family
yeah,
were
okay,
indicators of
that's
the
fair.
ability to obey orders and show respect.
Yeah.
Interestingly, even sense of humor was taken into account, as having one would imply a positive attitude as well as a capable and healthy mind.
I think that that's fair, considering I would imagine a lot of these battles are pretty brutal. Your life probably kind of sucks. If you can have, if they have like dark sense of humor, that's probably the best.
Both very useful in times of war to uplift the general mood and morale of the
Yeah.
army. Literacy was another skill that was looked for. Any soldier that could read and write was given a position to keep records and accounts.
I could see that being kind of a big plus. That could probably get you promoted, maybe, if you could read.
Sometimes even under the tribunes themselves. As I stated before, the Roman army started to deteriorate throughout the years, and by the time of the late Roman Empire, literate recruits were even immediately considered for the position of centurion, being in charge of 80 men simply due to the ability
Wow.
to read and write. But in the time of the early empire, this was unheard of. The chosen recruits now began their training. This was to be part of their 4-month trial. Those that wouldn't make it would be rejected, while those that passed it would swear a military vow and become legionaries. At no point during
Dude, even like that sounds cool. You can be part of the Legion. Like that just sounds cool.
while those that passed it would swear a military vow and become legionaries. At no point during this period were recruits taken into battle if they have not completed this trial. The first skill all recruits were taught was the march. This was the most important in their training, and it had many advantageous side effects for the men. By performing synchronized marches, they were taught the importance of coordination and unit cohesion,
yeah.
the very backbone of the Roman way of war. Every week they would perform a long march of 20 Roman miles in just 5 hours, while carrying 6
I don't know how long 20 Roman miles is, but that sounds long. That sounds like a very long day.
would perform a long march
How heavy was their stuff too? I don't know if he's gonna go over that or not, but like how, like with all your gear on, like it's gotta be pretty hefty.
of 20 Roman miles in just 5 hours, while carrying 60 pounds of
Oh, there you
equipment
go.
on them.
Oh, 60 pounds of equipment. That's pretty heavy though. That is pretty heavy. These are some strong men.
They would typically march 10 miles away from the camp, then 10 miles back. Once a while, a forced march was ordered, and the men had to complete 24 Roman miles
Oh, man.
within the same 5 hours. From their first to last day in the army, the men were constantly taught to maintain straight ranks and a proper distance away from each other, especially when changing formations. They could be ordered to quickly double or triple the depth of the ranks, or form a wedge or a defensive orb formation, all the while maintaining the distance between each other and
This sounds like it's very important, like for battle and for fighting, that if you are well trained, this sounds very, very important knowledge to be able to do. And if I would imagine, I don't know what happens if you mess up, like like in training, if you were to mess up, I would be scared.
or a
Maybe you only mess up once.
defensive orb formation, all the while maintaining the distance between each other and keeping the ranks straight. This was a lot harder than it might sound, and much practice was needed to perfect
Oh yeah, I'm
this.
sure.
But no imperial unit would be considered battle-ready without these particular skills. As in today's military, maintaining ranks and marching were the most repeated of their drills. On a larger scale, proper marching also had its benefits, as it allowed the legion to navigate through tough terrain and quickly deploy for battle, all the while maintaining order in case of an unexpected engagement. It also made it harder for men to desert or get lost from their unit. The next skill that was enforced was rather interesting. All recruits, no matter if they were infantry, cavalry, or even servants, were taught to swim.
Ooh, that sounds like a very, very good skill to have. Especially like around there. There's a lot of water.
If they were infantry, cavalry, or even servants, were taught to swim.
Yeah, that's pretty
This
good.
also had significant uses, the most obvious being the strengthening of countless muscles throughout the body, as well as
yeah.
a built-up immune system for cold weather and disease. The more interesting use for swimming was their techniques of dealing with floods or crossing rivers. I plan to dedicate an entire video solely on the many techniques the Romans used to accomplish this, as many of them were beyond fascinating and truly deserve a video of their own. It is only now that the recruits will begin their real combat training. They will each use a wooden practice gladius and scutum to practice various drills, like quickly sprinting forward to deliver a blow, then quickly lowering back behind the shield, or practicing chains of attack. Despite the gladius's fairly capable ability to slash, the recruits were taught to stab with it instead. This was due to several interesting reasons. Firstly, when performing a stab, less of the arm is exposed to the enemy than if they were to slash with it. Secondly, a stab is a lot more comfortable to perform than a slash.
See, like what if this was like marching toward, like this is cool. This looks cool. I like all these pictures too. Like, and that does make a lot of sense. Does make like to learn how to stab, because then you can kind of protect yourself a little bit better. That makes sense.
Slash with it. Secondly, a stab is a lot more comfortable to perform than a slash in a typical Roman tight formation, as it limits the possibility of wounding fellow soldiers nearby.
Right.
And thirdly, a slash is more likely to be stopped by armor or bones, making it very difficult to land a lethal blow. With a stab, however, a cut no deeper than 2 inches is more than enough to prove lethal. Furthermore, you wouldn't need a lot of force to perform such a stab, so it saves a lot of energy in combat and is a big factor to
Were they trained on like where to stab people? Like, center mass, stomach? Because I imagine like if you got stabbed in the stomach, you're gonna have a bad time. Like lots of things go wrong when you get stabbed in the stomach. So I wonder like where their targets were for that.
perform such a stab, so it saves a lot of energy in combat and is a big factor to why the
That's
legions
true.
were known to have unrivaled stamina in battle. An interesting fact is that the wooden gladius and scutum that the Romans used for practice would be twice the weight of their original counterparts. This was
Oh.
purposely done to increase muscle growth, as well as comfort,
That is true. That's actually like really smart. Oh, I wonder, like, were these guys like super jacked? Because I mean, they sound like they are really strong.
counterparts. This was purposely done to increase muscle growth, as well as comfort, accuracy, and speed when using the originals in real combat. The recruits would train with these several times a day, either with a wooden pole, fellow recruits, or with professional gladiators who were specifically chosen to instruct the recruits. The recruits would train in open fields because Romans strongly believed that subjecting yourself to weather raises the immune system and prevents disease and sickness.
Well, I mean, if anything, it probably helps you against the like environment and weather and stuff if it doesn't get you sick or like, help with immunity. I don't know. I would think that just them being around each other like this, like in close quarters and kind of, you know, all sharing the same air day in and day out probably helps a little bit too than getting outside. But I mean, all of these sound, I mean, it's actually like really impressive to hear how they were training them because this actually all makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of interesting to see, like, because this, I mean, like how far back we're going to see that they had a lot of really, really smart things implemented for training.
That subjecting yourself to weather raises the immune system and prevents disease and sickness. And so, even during the winter when it didn't snow, they forced their recruits and
Didn't
veterans
care.
to train outside.
Yeah.
But during especially
That's probably a good idea, though, like to get them, used to cold weather and stuff like that so that it doesn't phase them.
when it didn't snow, they forced their recruits and veterans to train outside. But during especially tough weather, large halls were constructed.
Okay, I might sound weird, but when I hear marching like that, it's like I don't know, I like that sound. Like lots of feet I don't know, boots marching? Is that weird? That's probably weird.
And veterans to train outside. But during especially tough weather, large halls were constructed for shelter, and the training continued inside them. Every man had to learn to throw a javelin. The practice javelins were also significantly heavier than the originals, in order to increase both accuracy and the muscles in the shoulders and back.
Also very
Furthermore,
smart.
every recruit and legionary constantly practiced using the sling. This is perhaps one of the biggest underappreciated facts about the
Oh yeah, I remember like seeing these in pictures and stuff too.
practiced using the sling.
These look
This is
complicated.
perhaps one of the biggest underappreciated facts about the legions, which is constantly overlooked by modern references. It is a fact that every imperial legionary not only owned, but knew how to effectively use a sling. The weapon was so respected by the Romans and their enemies that it sometimes was thought to be more effective than bows and arrows,
Oh,
as its
wow.
projectiles are harder to spot and could shatter bones and internal organs just
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, like I don't know what they're throwing or what they're slinging in these things, but I mean, imagine if you caught one like to the face, like it'd probably like break your eye socket, your nose. I mean, I don't know if you got like if you got it anywhere soft. I mean, they look like they hurt.
as its projectiles are harder to spot and could shatter bones and internal organs just by impact. It was
Damn.
probably a demoralizing fact for Rome's enemies that all 5,000 legionaries of every legion were able to accurately hurl sharpened stones from afar.
Okay, sharpened stones. Okay, if it's sharp stones, yeah, for sure. Like you don't think you want to be hit with that. But then is it embarrassing if you do go out like that? Like if that's what takes you out? Are they like oof? Like it's you know, cuz that does seem that seems crazy, but at the same time really impressive if you were able to take somebody out with one of those.
Legionaries of every legion were able to accurately hurl sharpened stones from afar. As if this was not enough, we are also told that a fourth of the youngest and most fit legionaries and recruits were trained to use bows either on foot or horseback and practiced them daily. From their system of training, we can imagine just why the legions were so effective. They not only were superbly equipped with the best armor and melee weapons of the age, but also could take on the role of missile troops, each being able to
Wow.
launch deadly javelins at medium range and arrows and stones at long range.
God, these battles must have been crazy. You got arrows, javelins, rocks, and then, if you manage to live through that, then you're going to be going like melee combat, stabbing each other. I don't know. That seems wild. That seems crazy.
And even this is not taking into account all the specialized auxiliary archers and artillery that would be attached to every legion.
Oh, of course.
All cavalry, regardless if they were recruits or veterans, daily practiced vaulting on and off a horse. This skill was very important for the way Roman cavalry operated and fought. The recruits were first taught how to vault without armor, but every combat-ready cavalryman was able to perform a vault while fully armored and even while carrying arms like a
Whoa, that's impressive. They are, I mean, these guys, all these guys had to be super jacked. Or at the very least, really, really strong. Even if maybe they didn't look jacked. But I don't know. I want to say that dudes were jacked.
The recruits were first taught how to vault without armor, but every combat-ready cavalryman was able to perform a vault while fully armored and even while carrying
That's so
arms
cool.
like a shield and spear. This enabled them to skillfully mount on and off a horse in an instant under unexpected alarms or even mid-battle. As the infantry performed its weekly marches, the cavalry was expected to march with them the same distance, but they were expected to constantly execute small drills while on march, like charging forward only to retreat and regroup back into formation, or practicing various maneuvers and scouting ahead. To get the cavalrymen and horses even more comfortable with each other,
Man, this must have been so impressive to see out there, like watching them practice and train. I feel like this would be really cool to see. Like if you I kind of wish that we could see stuff like this.
and scouting ahead. To get the cavalrymen and horses even more comfortable with each other, they were purposely tasked to march through tough, uneven terrain. It was common, for example, for both infantry and cavalry to perform their weekly marches by scaling mountains.
Oh my
As you could
gosh.
probably tell by now, training was done extensively to both recruits and veterans, the only difference being that veterans were allowed to train for combat only once a day, while the recruits did it more than once, typically in the morning and afternoon. The recruits would also have to dig trenches and collect wood throughout the days. This whole system of training would be very difficult for the recruits, and many would not make it past this initial 4-month trial. Only the performance of the veterans would
It's the 4-month trial. This sounds like 4 months of hell, but I guess if you made it through, you're gonna be a badass. You are going to be a trained soldier, badass, cool looking legion.
and many would not make it past this initial 4-month trial. Only the performance of the veterans would have shown them that this new way of life was possible and achievable. After completing 4 months of continuous drills, the recruits had to make a military oath and were branded with a symbol on their hands, most probably with a hot iron. This would be their final day as recruits, and they could now consider themselves legionaries. But any experienced general would still see them as recruits, as it is one thing to pass the drills and trial, and another to execute them in the chaos of battle and not flee. Nevertheless, these drills were the core of the training that the legionaries repeated for all 20 years of their service. I'd like to give a
For 20 years? That is crazy. That is really cool.
warm thanks to all my loyal Patreon supporters, as well as all the viewers for watching. I can't wait to see you all in the next one.
I really, really enjoyed this. This was very interesting because I really don't know a whole lot about Roman Empire battle military. I mean, like I like vaguely remember it in school. Like, I mean, I took history and obviously like they touched on this and stuff like that, but I never really like dove really deep into it. So this is all like really interesting to me, and I feel like this was kind of like a good place to start. But like I said, if you guys do have any documentaries that you want to suggest to me that I can watch in my free time, or if they are no longer than I'll say like 30 minutes, put it in the comments below. Let me know so I can kind of, just absorb all the knowledge. And then I think when we're done with the Roman Empire, I want to get into like medieval times and World War I, World War II. I want to do like a lot of war stuff because I feel like it's important to know, and I do find it like really, really interesting. I also want to do maybe like some gun history if you guys would be interested in that. So I think gun history to me is really, really interesting. Like the Daewoo, like the history of the Daewoo and stuff like that. Like I really want to watch some of that. I don't know if YouTube will be super mad at me if I do those, but I might just say F it and just do it anyway. But this was great. I really enjoyed this. This was a great video. So be sure to go and like and subscribe to them. I think they did a really, really good job. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. That's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.